Good afternoon. This is the Community Redevelopment Agency workshop session for Wednesday, April 16th at 3 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and if you would, please, roll call.
Yes, Miss Sydney Talcott.
Here.
Mr. Thad Mosley.
Present.
Mr. Gary Paytow.
Here.
Mr. Ron Whittington.
Here.
Mr. Marcus Camphy.
Here.
Miss Megan Edwards. And Mr. Kevin Myers. And I would like to note for the record that Mr. Kevin Myers is under the weather, and so he went ahead and let staff in the clerk's office know ahead of time that he would not be here today, unfortunately.
Thank you. Appreciate that. This afternoon is really just a workshop, and we have really 3 items on the agenda for this afternoon for discussion and consideration for future considerations. So I'd like to start with item A, which is the 6th Avenue mixed-use proposed redevelopment district RD zoning. And I'm not sure, Taylor, if you or Heather are going to lead us into this discussion, but I'll turn it over.
So I will pass this to Heather to make some introductions.
Sorry, guys, I'm kind of hiding in the corner back here. So staff has had a couple of meetings with the developer for this site, which is on 6th Avenue North between 1st and 2nd Streets. And so we were wanting them to come and present to you what they are proposing to do on the property before they go through any formal approvals. So we've been working with them through the process to rezone the property and kind of all the different elements of their proposal. We just wanted to have the conversation with the CRA again in advance in case there are some things that maybe change or are tweaked before they come in for formal approval. So I do want to point out that this property is one that does have vested height of 59 feet back from a settlement, and a judge issued vested height rights back from 2004. I think it was settled in 2006. So this is, again, one of those last remaining legacy properties that has height above 35 feet. So they will be taking advantage of that. The only few left are the one across the street, Dolphin Depot, which has yet to break ground, and the Azure that's, I think, almost close to finish down on the south end. So with that, I'll turn it over to the applicants and the agents to present to you their project.
And before we do that, I'd like to just ask a couple of quick questions, Heather, just for clarification. There is a requirement to go to an R&D zoning from the original central business district criteria?
Yes, based on the size of the property and some of the elements that they would like to implement that are a little outside of the regular CBD zoning, and in addition, the height. So this is a project that we would require to go through rezoning based on those factors.
Just to elaborate on that a little bit, could you give us a little bit of the pros and cons of going from this central business district zoning to R&D and what's driving that?
Well, there really are no downsides to rezoning. The RD rezoning, it's essentially the same as a PUD, but in the downtown district.
Okay.
And it allows the project to have a little bit more creative flexibility with their design and site plan. And because they have the height and because of the square footage of the project, they kind of lean into that need to have that. So there really is no downside. The pros is that they get a little bit more flexibility from what otherwise would be the strict application of the zoning code.
If I understood you correctly, it means because of the fact that it's certain square footage is pushing it into the R&D criteria.
Correct.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the board of Heather? Yes, sir.
This is from the I-80's negotiation on height. It's been sitting there a long time. I'm generally inclined to look positively at anything that will improve this strip. It has been a real eyesore for a very long time. This whole part of Jacksonville Beach from 5th up through 7th, 8th, and along 1st Street is really a mess. But this face block here is about the worst of it. As far as what we have commercially east of Third, we have had a blood bank there for many, many years. We had various other enterprises, and I'm looking forward to hearing what they've got to say.
Thank you. Any other thoughts or comments from the board? No? With that, I'll turn it over to the applicant, and if you would, present your project for us.
Good afternoon, Chair, Board, staff. My name is Billy Zeitz. I'm with Corner Lot Development Group. I have a few of our team members and our architect here from Bold Line Development, and then Cindy Trimmer, of course, who's with Driver McAfee, because we're smart to use people smarter than we are. And our goal has been, since we started looking at this property, to work directly with staff and understand, first of all, the development process of Jack's Beach. We came in with an interest of being more of a partner than an applicant, which is why we asked to have a workshop so we could discuss this in an open forum before it came to a public hearing. We're all familiar with the history of the area and the pedestrian corridor and the commercial corridor, and our intention with this project has been to maximize that, have great pedestrian opportunities for retail, use the height limit to its benefit, and also create an opportunity for some new parking solutions in this area, which not only serve the project but could also serve existing businesses, beach access, and some of the other commercial opportunities in the area. So our effort has been to understand where the new comp plan was going, where the direction of the city was going, and incorporate all of that into our design. So we have some images that we'd like to share. We have a site plan that really maximizes the use of the site. A couple things I'd like to point out, and obviously there's an architect here to answer more detailed questions, and our design team as well, is, we've really tried to focus on making these pedestrian corridors more of a destination. People use them to walk already down to the beach and to the bars and restaurants along First. So we really wanted to try to slow everything down on this corner, have appropriate landscaping, have some covered shaded pedestrian walkways, and really make it feel like it was something that was serving the people, even if they weren't coming to the condos or the hotel or the retail. They still felt like they were a part of something, more of an engaging streetscape rather than you kind of walk in and walk out of a store. We wanted to be more of an interactive. So that's what I wanted to share as an intro. I'll offer it to Cindy if she'd like to share anything else as we roll through the presentation, but that's been our development team's intent from the start, and I can't say enough about staff's willingness to meet with us. I think we probably met 3 or 4 times with a whole lot of ideas on how to get this done before we landed on this, which is what our intent is to develop.
Billy did a great job. We're really excited to be one of the guinea pigs under the new code and the new plan. And I think with that, we can jump into the slides. Who's got a clicker?
Did Christian leave with the clicker? Yes. Well, I mean, it's a workshop, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Oh, yeah. All right. Forward, backwards. We'll give it to you. Right hand, all on you.
Let's see. Oh, I'm not going backwards. All right, so as you can see, we tried to keep the interaction with the pedestrians and the structure to be sort of softer. We have the openings that are a little bit less like a strip center and more like a place you might want to spend some time. We extended everything out to the edge of the street to try to create that shaded and pedestrian experience that I described. And we worked with staff to determine the appropriate entrance to the parking garage, which will be off of 2nd Street. That way we're keeping that commercial corridor open from any ingress and egress and provide parking opportunities immediately off of 2nd. And I'm sure you'll love the creative names of the stores because that's most of our design team. Our architects, as I'm sure the architect on the board knows, like to be creative as soon as they're given the opportunity. And then we worked to make sure we had the appropriate code landscaping, and the balconies that sort of gave it, a modern feel, but still, kind of paid tribute to the historical architecture of coastal Florida.
That view, I'm sorry, just go back if you would. That view is at 2nd and 6th Avenue North, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where we, ideally you could walk right underneath onto the storefront, or you could take the sidewalk, and then depending on who the tenants are, and we've been working with all the tenants who've been there throughout this whole process, which is why we're sort of taking our time because we want to be a good neighbor. Depending on who the tenant is, we'd still continue to work with the city on what that experience is like for outdoor dining opportunities or more creative parking solutions in this corridor.
One quick question, if I may. Given the relatively low,
If you would.
given the relatively low altitude of those balconies, do you all envision placing any restrictions on what can be put on the balconies or what activities can occur on the balconies?
That's a really good
As a
question.
landlord with balconies, I'm familiar with what can be a problem.
Yeah, that's a good question, and whether we end up using all of the rooms for condos or hotels, I think obviously the condos would have HOA with strict regulations that we would be able to guide everyone, and a hotel would have its own regulations. So that is a good point that we will consider.
It helps.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then there you can see the parking entrance off of 2nd. So we tried to be as discreet as possible and still create enough parking capacity that we could serve the condos or hotel. We could also serve the existing or new retail, and we have the opportunity to create some public parking in the spaces as well. So we'll be in excess of what our parking requirement is. I'm sure if anyone's familiar with building parking garages, it's no small feat. So we wanted to make sure we could serve all of the community's needs and the project's needs through this effort.
Marcus, did you have a comment? I'm sorry.
How many extra parking spaces would be available potentially for the general public?
Depending on the final use of what we're going to do in the project, it's anywhere between 30 and 55 spaces is where it is. We haven't finalized the engineering for the parking garage and how many compact spaces versus golf cart spaces. So we're trying to be in that 30 or 50 range.
Now, would those be paid spaces that people would then have to time slots, whatever that is, or is that just all day passes?
I think we would try to mimic what is happening with paid parking in Jacks
Okay.
Beach currently.
Okay.
We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're trying to just kind of camouflage ourselves in. We know the construction is going to be a large undertaking, so we're going to want to be seen as a welcome neighbor when we open.
And this view is on 1st, and then this wall or this facade is what abuts
Mangoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we try to make sure that the street frontage of 6th and 1st met all of the requirements for a pedestrian and commercial corridor, and then tried to use this side to kind of buffer ourselves from the existing commercial businesses. And this is an idea of what we may have for condos. Again, we're still finalizing the architecture and design and footprints. We could be as big as 1,500 square feet. We could be as small as 800 square feet. Right now, we just want to give everybody an idea of the direction the project was going before we came before you formally. And then you'll see probably the most important part, which is our site plan. Again, this was born out of several meetings with staff in an effort to adhere to the conditions and use the RD flexibility to the advantage of the commercial pedestrian corridors along with our project. So we maximize the commercial frontage. We try to have clear ingress and egress specifically for people who parked in the parking garage to directly access the retail. And also whether it's a hotel or condo use, because it may be a combination of the two, they would have a separate entrance and a lobby that could take them directly to wherever they were staying or living. So you can see all of that there, and the landscaping and enhanced pedestrian corridors. And I think that's the final slide of our presentation. Perfect. So I don't know if there's other questions or commentary. We're really here to get a feel for how the CRA views the project in this corridor. I appreciate Mr. Mosley's feedback early on.
Thad, I guess you've got some additional questions.
No questions, really. Like I said, this area has been a long-standing eyesore. This proposal looks like a significant improvement. This proposal looks like it may actually get us more residents downtown Jacks Beach, which is how you end up tipping the balance. As anybody who knows about urban spaces and residents, certainly been hearing about it in downtown Jacksonville for 30 years. So I think this is just fine. I think that the council hopefully will embrace it and it can go forward and be successful, because it has been so bad. It's been so bad, and this looks like a huge improvement. Thank you.
Well, we're in alignment. Our firm has been responsible, along with the help of our partners at Drive and McAfee, for delivering more than 500 units to downtown Jacksonville in the past 2 years. Yeah, I said 2 years. So my beard wasn't gray then; it is now. And we have the same sentiment of the more people you can get in an urban core or central business district, the better it is for the quality of life for everybody.
Any other questions, Sydney?
Yeah, somewhat related to bringing folks downtown. You mentioned hotel at various points, so is that kind of TBD or, yeah, what is that look
Yeah, I think through the RD zoning, we have the flexibility to do either. We're really trying to make sure at this point of the development program, we're trying to make sure that whatever we build is acceptable to our financial partners. So having a diversity of uses that could include residents and a hotel is going to be critical for us going forward.
Cool, okay, thank you.
I would
Marcus,
say,
go ahead.
based off the SWOT analysis, this is phenomenal for our environment and what we're looking for.
Great, thank you.
I'd like to just make a few comments if I could. First of all, the downtown plan that was done, downtown vision that was done back in 2007, identified several corridors for development within the city. One of them was identified as a retail corridor, 6th Avenue North, and from what I see in this plan, this wholeheartedly meets that criteria. It fits the plan that was developed back in 2007. I like the idea that you're activating First Street. To me, that's a real important aspect. We want First Street to be the avenue that talks about the beach community, and I think activating First Street is very important. The fact, I know it's a challenge, but I think you've done a good job of where you've located the dumpster location, which is off of 2nd Street. Instead of it being on First Street, which we have a number of them on First Street, which, you know, if we're trying to make that the real corridor of downtown, that's not what you want on First Street. And the fact that you've put it on 2nd Street, I think, is a great step in the right direction. Architecturally, it's a little change for the city, but I don't think it steps beyond the bounds. We're starting to see more modern type style of architecture, and I appreciate the fact that this emphasizes that to a degree, kind of in between the old model and where we're seeing things head at this point in time. I really hope that you're very successful with your retail on the first floor, because that intersection of First Street and 6th Avenue North could be something very special. Right now, it's just kind of existing there, and if the folks who are doing the Dolphin Depot ultimately do their development, I think it could make that a very vibrant intersection. A lot of activity, restaurants, other businesses, and so forth there. From everything that I've seen, I wholeheartedly support the proposal that you put forth. I would, encourage, and I appreciate the fact that you wanted to come and talk to us first. The chance for us to have a little bit of communication and see, where can we do it a little bit better? Where is it ultimately a project that becomes a win-win, a win for you, a win for the city at the same time? And having this opportunity, I think, is fantastic to sit down and review this. And I would encourage you to come back to us again at some point as you're going through your design process. If you've got questions or need answers, we'd love to share that with you.
Okay.
And try to make this a truly win-win situation.
Gary, could we,
I'm sorry.
it's not a regular, this is not a regular meeting, but could we agree to state as a group that we really like what we see and hope it goes forward successfully?
Well, again, it's not a
A
formal
resolution.
meeting; it's more a workshop, and
Yeah,
I think you've already heard from all of the board members here and have a pretty good sense as to, yeah,
We can't say who, we can't do a raise your hand, say aye, but as the board in a workshop can say we wholeheartedly as an organization.
Yeah.
Like
That one goes to the council that way.
Can I ask a question real fast?
go ahead, Marcus. Workshop. We'll let you.
If you were to do the hotel and or the residential, what would be the variation between the two or the combined?
I think the biggest variation would just be the square footage of the
Okay.
units, right? And maybe the division between the balconies might shrink. The overall exterior and sort of aesthetics.
How many rooms and square size?
Yeah, I think the maximum number of hotel rooms we could fit if we didn't do any condos
Okay.
would be somewhere in the 90 range.
Okay.
Well, we think it's going to land on a hybrid.
I was gonna say, that's based on test fit, not fully laying
Yeah.
things out and having it
Yeah.
all appropriately planned, but just expectation setting,
And-
order of magnitude somewhere.
And so our parking garage design and the footprint of that parking garage design, besides the dumpster location, is driving the size of what we have remaining. And what we don't want to do is short our commercial tenants or the community or our property with no parking solutions, right? Because then we just shot ourselves in the foot. So as we dial that in, then we can better dial in how many rooms, et cetera.
Okay. So if you didn't do the hotel standpoint and you just did condos, what does that look like?
That's 36 condos
36.
and
Okay.
about 18,000 square feet of retail, 19,000 square feet of retail. So pretty substantial.
Yeah,
Pretty substantial. So
I'm in favor. I just curiosity.
Credit where due, our first site plan did not look like this. This was definitely an evolution of working with the team and making sure that we were getting everything right. But I'm really, really pleased with where it's landed, and we really appreciate your time and kind of grading the work on the front end to make sure we're on the right track before we go full steam ahead down a path that isn't where we all want to land.
yeah,
Right.
agreed.
Oh, since I'm the only board member who didn't say anything, I think it looks fantastic. It was great. What we envisioned with mixed use, from what I've seen, this is a really a good combination. I just wanted to ask one architectural thing. The wavy lines on the side. I mean, I have never seen that before. Is that? Am I looking at that wrong, or is that intentional? Is this supposed to look like the waves, or depict the waves, or what?
Yeah, so we were actually trying to mimic some of what Casa Marina was doing with
Okay.
the arches,
Okay.
and kind of doing a modern take on that.
All right. Yeah. That's very, very hip.
Oh, thanks.
One thing I would just, I would try to encourage you to really take a look at is the street level activation. and I don't just mean the retail, but I mean the building provides some shade because it basically sits on the south side. But what can we do from a landscaping standpoint? What can we do with outdoor seating and so forth to really make this a very desirable location to come to? You know, that because you've got the advantage of a tall building now that provides shadow,
Yeah.
which is one of the few things that we have in the downtown area. And we need to take advantage of it because you're going to be able to have people sitting out there a lot more than in some of the other locations because of the significant sun and heat issues that we have to deal with.
Yeah, we agree wholeheartedly, and we've looked at designs that extend as far out over to the edge of the right of way as possible to provide additional shade. We've raised the level of the balcony so we can fit landscaping under it. We probably have 7 site plans we're not sharing that show outdoor dining and all these cool seating areas, but that's just a little bit disingenuous because we don't have a tenant, right? So, loving the new outdoor dining program, the success of the project across the street, we really hope to capitalize on that and get a good tenant in there who can fit those needs.
And it's my understanding that you're going to be starting this project next week. Is that correct?
They say
Don't say that in front of the people. They'll ask us why.
They'll have me back in at the next city council meeting for an unannounced agenda item. No, I think, our intent is to be able to start in this calendar year. We are an ambitious group, so sometimes our vision doesn't always align with reality, which is where the 3 of us end up living in that place between vision and reality. So we hope to get it started this year, but there's a lot of uncertainties in the development marketplace, and this was a big step forward for us. I do want to say we wouldn't be here doing a workshop if we weren't fortunate to have worked with staff over the past few months, and we wouldn't have such a quality product if they weren't open about letting us come in and explaining to us the code. We work in a lot of different municipalities. It's not always that way. So a big credit to them for kind of sharing with us what was happening with the comp plan, the 2007 vision, the fact that a workshop was meaningful, because that really let us use our design team's efforts to head in the best direction.
We're very coachable.
Yeah.
Well, and we want to help. I mean, that's part of, I think, our responsibility is to help also to, get a different vision for the downtown and have projects moving forward. So as we can help, please let us know. I think you've got support, consensus pretty much from the board here.
Great.
And look forward to hearing more from you in the near future.
Perfect. And I can attest that the dumpster location is a result of your 2 Jack's Beach residents right here. So they've been a big part of our process. I live in St. Augustine. They live in Jack's Beach. So they're like, no, let's do it this way. I was like, oh, okay, guys. So credit to them.
Thank you. Any final comments from
Just good luck with the project.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Taylor, Heather, anything else from either of you?
Just kind of so everyone knows what the next steps will be. Like we've both mentioned, they've come in and met with staff from planning and zoning several times, which is kind of how they got to this current site plan. Next step for them will be meeting with all departments, what we call a pre-app meeting. Once they're ready to submit, we'll get it scheduled for a CRA meeting for your consideration, a planning commission meeting, and subsequent council hearings with the recommendations from both boards. And then they'll be on their way.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Enjoy your afternoon.
If you need any help, I'll be happy to be a liaison.
We're going to move on to the next item on our agenda for this afternoon, and that is a discussion of Beach Alliance. And Taylor, I believe you may be heading us in reference to this conversation.
Yes, sir. I will dive into this one. So this kind of stems from a number of places. We've always, at least in the several years now that I've been here, we've kind of had periodic meetings with the hospitality industry in the downtown. That has always been spearheaded by the mayor. It's gotten to where those occur more so in peak season or in advance of maybe like a 4th of July or a holiday weekend. They're not monthly or quarterly. They're just when we need to have them, which has been great. At the council retreat, there were several things that came out of it. One of them was just kind of looking at different ways to engage the downtown business, and this is very similar to something that I did in my previous community. And this is essentially it's a group that will meet. That the acronym stands for Business Events, Arts, Community, Hospitality. That would be the core focus of the Beach Alliance. It's going to be, volunteer based. It's going to be the downtown business owners and operators, and basically what they would do is partner with the city and mainly staff to meet and help us maintain safe, vibrant, and welcoming business district. We want to strengthen those partnerships with the businesses downtown, and several of them, especially now that we have the facade grant program, know very easily how to get a hold of me if they have a problem or if they need something. But what we've seen is, maybe it is event related or it's on a Saturday afternoon. And I'm not available, or the message doesn't get to me until too late. And so this is going to be something that really helps to support the downtown businesses, creates that line of communication between city staff and the businesses for their needs, whether that be code enforcement, after hours issues during an event, just not, maybe they don't even know that an event's going on. They're saying, hey, we're seeing excess crowds, whatever that may be. And really encouraging them to take a more active role in helping us to create and promote the downtown that we want. We sit in on these hospitality meetings that we have, and really and truly, it's very eye-opening. Everyone really seems to be on the same page. The business owners all really do, at the end of the day, want the same thing. And so we see this as an opportunity to give them a clear channel to give the city feedback, to talk about downtown issues and topics, and it just formalizes meetings that we're already having, and it would establish them more regularly. Attached to the packet is just a kind of broad, for those of you, Gary, you might actually be the lucky only one that was around when we basically created the art committee, for example. This is at least the structure of the way this document looks is exactly the operating procedures we created when we made the art committee. So again, our mission statement talks about we're a volunteer network of business owners and operators who partner with the city to maintain safe, vibrant, and welcoming business district. They'll serve as the eyes and ears of downtown, helping to report issues, communicate needs, explore safety and beautification efforts, and collaborate on events and enhancements. Membership would be free, and it's just based on their commitment to engage with staff and business owners to improve the downtown experience. And then again, I won't bore everybody by reading all of the bullet points. But this really, we just kind of wanted to bring this to you guys. It's something we've hit on, we've touched on, we've talked a little bit on. I know the chairman was at the council retreat and he heard me kind of throw this acronym out there. And so in theory, if everyone is comfortable moving forward with something like this, what you would see next would be a formal resolution adopting the Beach Alliance program and then allowing us from that point to continue to expand and develop this program further with a goal to have start reaching out to businesses, hopefully in the next couple of months. And I am open to feedback, questions, comments, whatever you guys have for me.
I just wanted to ask, if I could,
Go ahead.
have you identified who the staff liaison is yet?
You're looking at her.
I figured it would be you.
That would be me.
That poor thing.
No, it's okay. I mean, truly, a lot of the downtown business owners, there aren't very many that I could think of right now that I don't have already a relationship and some kind of rapport with. So I do feel like it's a very natural thing to take on. And I'm quite comfortable with all the ones I know and deal with. There's nobody that I'm not comfortable talking with.
How many do you envision the group? How big do you think it's going to be?
I mean, if we got 100% participation, God, what do you think? 35? Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
What?
30 to 40.
That's not bad.
I mean, if we get 50 participants, that'll be like, I'll set off fireworks in Latham Plaza. But
If you can afford them.
you know, I think out the gate, I think there'll be a group of 15 to 20 that we can pretty
Okay.
easily round
Yeah,
up.
that's manageable. Okay.
In my opinion, I could be wrong. Heck, our first meeting could have 3 or it could have 55. Who knows?
Any other comments from board members?
I just wanted to say I love this idea, and I think maybe just if there's any way where this committee could help facilitate it, definitely open as you develop it.
Sure.
Definitely open to.
And I think too, helping, again, I always pick on poor Gary, but he was the one here when I think it was flyers for the facade grant program. We had really nice flyers made up, and I believe you were one of the ones who helped us physically go out. And I know previous board member, Mr. Jeff Jones, he lived downtown at the time. I had board members literally just help me go business to business and pass out information packets and answer questions. And so when it comes to kind of rounding up businesses and talking to folks, that is things I will probably heavily rely on the board for.
Yeah, happy to help, and I feel like it only helps us to have more of a perspective and connection with the local businesses.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Marcus, did you have a comment?
Uh-oh. All right.
So would these be like active members versus info subscribers?
Yeah, so these would be active.
All active?
Yes.
Okay. And then with the active members, would then you create your own board out of that?
No, so the intent and the goals of the city are not to create any more boards.
Okay.
This would just be, I wish more, more had the opportunity to attend the hospitality meetings. Truly what it would come down to is taking a meeting that already exists occasionally with these business owners and formalize on the third Monday at 10 a.m., whatever time works best for all of them. We are going to have a standing Beach Alliance meeting. Staff will come and, we had a conversation at the executive leadership meeting yesterday where, the public works director, for example, I said, hey, if there's in theory down the line, let's say there's going to be a huge infrastructure project that's going to majorly impact businesses. So at whatever alliance meeting that we have, I would then basically invite that person to come as a guest speaker and address those concerns and give the businesses an opportunity to talk directly one-on-one to the person spearheading whatever project is coming. If it's an event, the Parks and Recreation team that handles events, bringing them in directly. And it really honestly just helps simplify communications with the businesses, and it gives them that direct line to staff members or the appropriate party that they need to talk to.
So would that be set up for the communication through like a Slack, a group meet, or you want to have?
So the businesses already have a group meet,
Okay.
and I would work with our communications manager, Jacob.
Okay.
I hope he's listening. And give him some more fun duties on helping us figure out the best way to handle the communication. Something Heather and I have even discussed is, maybe even having a separate email account, so a separate inbox where Heather, myself, and the appropriate parties that need access to, they have access. And so if it's a weekend issue and I'm not here, but it's an event weekend and we have park staff, they have real-time access to whatever that inbox is to see what the issues are coming in.
So if we took our arts market that we just did last weekend,
Mm-hmm.
How has the feedback been in regards to that kind of event?
I would definitely defer to Allison with
Okay.
Parks on that. To my knowledge, though, I don't believe there's been anything nothing negative that we've heard.
Okay. Do you guys have a branding already?
So, one of the things
Okay.
that came out of the council retreat is taking our brand standards and kind of our mission and vision, and they actually have the communications manager working on a complete overhaul on branding in general. So again, that will I'll defer to Jacob on that. But whatever branding the city then adopts and embodies, we would mimic with whatever we're doing.
So you are in charge of the steering committee in essence of how this all's. So how do you guys track goals and metrics?
This is going to be a really hard one to track goals and metrics on because it's going to be very different depending on who you're talking to. So from staff, for me, if we have high attendance, a lot of engagement, a lot of questions being asked, and a lot of feedback from the businesses, for us, that's a success that we are having those businesses engaging with us. From the business perspective, what they deem a success may be like they don't want to listen to me talk to them every month. Like that's going to bore them really quick. So I'm going to have to find creative ways to make sure that the information I'm providing those businesses at these alliance meetings is relevant to what they want. And so I think the first couple of meetings, kind of my vision for this, if it all works out perfectly, which to be honest, it never does. But in a perfect world, I would be able to go in and maybe talk to business owners either one-on-one or in groups of 2 or 3, grab lunch, grab coffee, pop in the office, and really listen to what would it take for you to agree to be a part of this alliance, and what do you need to get out of this to feel like it's worth your time or your staff's time. And right now we just don't have those answers. This was kind of creating what we kind of visualized, kind of putting the guardrails up on what we can and can't do was kind of the first step. Then obviously bringing it to you guys, making sure you guys aren't like, hey, this is like wacky, please don't do this. We want to make sure the CRA was comfortable. And then once we have those conversations with the business owners.
I understand the CBD and the district per se, but then you have slightly businesses just outside of that.
Yeah.
Such as Maple Street.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Salt Life.
Yeah.
Mellow Mushroom.
Yep.
Buddha Belly.
So we would get into some really weird areas with the state statute.
Okay.
Bings as, yeah, I was going to say Bings as this is a CRA.
Right.
You know, alliance that we are forming. I'm the CRA person. They would have to be in our boundary.
So you're limited.
Mm-hmm. Just the downtown district.
And or target area.
Well, this one is
specifically just
downtown.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
So to a certain extent, that's where the difference would be between the mayor's meetings with the businesses as well as your coordination.
Technically, yes, but well, and like the mayor's, I think the only one from outside of the district that comes are the folks from Gingers.
I'm sorry.
The folks from Gingers, they're the only ones outside of the district that participate in those anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
but in theory, yes, anyone could go to the mayor's meetings. This is downtown hospitality only.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
that's all.
That's where I was just trying to understand and distinguish the difference between the two and how that moves forward.
Yep.
You know, maybe it could be that the mayor's thing drops off and it just becomes this. I don't know. It was just a question in the back of my mind as to how we manage this.
To be determined. The mayor has expressed previously, that she loves doing it. She does not mind doing it. But at one time, it was kind of like, hey, if staff ever wanted to take over.
I see.
Okay. Yeah, but she will, I have zero doubts in my mind, she will be very, very involved. Mm-hmm. Like we will beg her, please be involved.
I think overall in my reading of this and where you're going with it, Taylor, I appreciate what you're attempting to do here, and I think it's a step in the right direction.
Okay.
And to really get businesses more involved, the challenge is going to be, the real challenge that we're going to have is you want a group that encourages initiation and talks about the issues and things to that extent. The question becomes, how do we respond to those and respond quickly and get those things done? Because if we say that we're going to do something, we need to make sure that we do it. Yep. Otherwise, they're just going to say, it's just another bureaucratic mess, and we don't want to participate anymore. So whatever we put together needs to have a program that allows us to quickly implement, particularly right at the beginning. If somebody comes up and says, I've got a trip hazard out on the sidewalk, how do we get out there and quickly fix that and move forward? And they see the progress, and if they see that, they're going to become more engaged.
Sure. And I think this is where this differs also from the hospitality meetings, is formalizing this, having formal operating procedures, a membership application, and having a true alliance formed. It holds the businesses accountable, but it also holds us and the city and staff accountable as well. And it creates, okay, we've created all these channels. Here's this reporting measure. now we have to step up to the plate as well, you know. So it will truly, if it works how we really hope it will, it truly will be a partnership where they're going to have to give, but so are we.
Yeah.
And every department is going to be involved.
And I think that's a very good point too. This is again back to the earlier presentation. Needs to be a win-win for both sides, and I think we can make this something very special and very unique. But we're really going to have to be focused on it. So I look forward to seeing how you move this forward and ultimately implement it.
Okay.
And I'll work with you in any way I can
Okay.
to hopefully make this successful, because I can see the significant advantages to having this in place. Any other comments from anybody?
To your point, I'm sure Taylor can do this since she'll be at the meetings. They have to be aware of what we can and cannot do.
Absolutely, it's a great point.
That's
Because some things won't be
something
possible.
we can do. That's something we can't afford to do. Maybe we could do it next year. That's something we hope to get done this week.
Yep.
So really make it clear what is possible.
Great point.
I believe that your council would be able to invite guests. They seem to have a couple of CR members who are very interested in this. Perhaps they could be honorary attendees.
Absolutely.
And some of your businesses just across 3rd Street, I think, could probably be invited to observe.
Yeah, I would think
not
so.
To vote, not to participate, not to be official members, but you might even have a separate category of folks who can be there and can make a modest comment, maybe a CRA board member or two who are keenly interested, and maybe some of these peripheral businesses.
It's a great
not
idea.
Counting the 3 new CBD shops we've got on 3rd Street, but whatever.
Well, from a business owner standpoint, that's just outside the business district.
I know.
And not just mine, but my relationship with those other businesses are just outside the district.
Right, and if you wanted to be an emeritus member of this board, you might be able to help represent those interests.
And so, in discussing, that this alliance was beginning to be maybe formulated as a business networking kind of component.
I think it could always expand too. That's something me and Heather were talking about is, right now, for a number of reasons. I mean, one,
I get it for the pilot, especially.
Bandwidth, especially.
Like, yeah, right. Totally. And the implementation and the quickness of what it needs to do.
Right. But could this grow? I think so.
The problem is if people be perceived to be excluded.
Sure.
But
then they're automatically on create.
But the thing is, to your point, let's say you have a meeting, let's say this group from across 3rd Street are there.
Yeah.
They're properly represented, and they want something done. Well, it's not flipped to the CRA, it's flipped to the city to do it. Right from that same cross point right there.
Right.
Yeah.
Just switch it this way.
Right.
Anyone could attend, to be fair. I mean, it'll be just like any other meeting. Any business could attend. They just couldn't technically be on the alliance because it's just the downtown business. But I mean, in theory, a business owner from St. Johns County could come if they wanted to. It could be anyone.
Well, Jack's Beach couldn't address their issue, but Jack's Beach can address the cross 3rd Street issue.
The CRA can
More
address.
promptly than the CRA, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. But yes, this is something that, who knows, we could see it be really, really successful. And if it's done well, and we're very hopeful and feeling very encouraged that it will be done well and executed properly, after a year or so of this is something that I could see expanding and being implemented much more than just the downtown district. That would be our goal.
Any other comments?
I like the focal point. But we got to make sure that we don't exclude the other businesses that do generate revenue for the city.
That's a challenge.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
because,
it is.
because of what state statutes kind of restrict
I get
us.
it, but it's one of those things that
Well, the CRA doesn't have to do it. You can flip the switch
right.
right there and make Jack's Beach do it. They can probably react more quickly, seriously.
yeah, I'm just
Right in the same form.
That's where we're, I deal with this often. This isn't anything I ever really discuss to the group, but I can't tell you how many businesses truly have approached me, and some have even gone as far as to fill out applications for grants and different things, and I have to call them and say, look, I think this is great. I think your project's great. You're not in the downtown district. I cannot help you.
Right.
the city does not have the same programs we have. Those are the benefits of having a redevelopment district is you have a different set of standards and abilities. And I hate the term exclude, but unfortunately, it's just the nature of the beast sometimes is that we can only do so much within this rectangle, and there's not anything that we can do outside of it.
Is that because the city has deemed it that rectangle, or is that a state issue?
So when it was created in 87, you have to create a geographic boundary that is considered slum and blight, and you have to do a finding of necessity, and the state and the city and then the county, the taxing authority, have to agree and deem that that area is blighted. And the area that we have was the area that was deemed needed the most work. And we're not going to expand the boundary.
It would be difficult to try to expand that area.
Well, it would also start our base year value over, and we would can't do that. Not going to happen.
Yeah. Any other comments? Taylor, good luck.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be calling you all that time. You volunteer? Don't you worry. I'm going to need some help getting word out.
I'm here.
Good.
I'm here.
You know what? I feel quite certain that honestly, just about anybody sitting up here, I could call, including Jim. He'll hit the ground running with me.
Just live a mile away.
Well, everybody, this will be likely on your agenda, the regular meeting this month, in a formal resolution. And I know sometimes resolutions can kind of be like, oh, but for us, it just truly makes the paper trail a lot easier to keep track of when we formalize things like this. So we will bring a resolution just to adopt, hey, we're good with it. We're going to move forward with creating a beach alliance and run with it and get going. So that will be on your next agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
If nothing else, then we'll move on to item C of our workshop agenda, which is the downtown redevelopment plan update for the lifeguard life-saving station.
Yes. So we redid the plan very recently, and we did a really, I think maybe I'm biased, but we did a great job outlining objectives that mimic the objectives that council set forth in their strategic plan, and that was very intentional. In two different places, the life-saving station, well, not the station in particular, but historic preservation is brought up because we always wanted to allow ourselves the opportunity, should an opportunity come along, to preserve this building and make improvements. We wanted to be able to do so. At the time of this plant update, we did not know exactly what that was going to look like. So therefore, this specific project was not included on page 16 and 17 of that plan, which are the project tables. So plan, we're not calling this a plan amendment because we're not amending the plan at all. All we're doing, if approved, would be updating that chart to add the life-saving station as a formalized project, because now we have a better understanding of what that project will look like. So you will see on your regular agenda, again, another formal resolution that would adopt updating and adding one line to the project charts. Could we have done it because it's listed as an objective for historic preservation? Probably, but why do something that's in the gray when we can make it very black and white and just update the chart? And then for auditing purposes, reporting purposes, keeping our plan nice and clean, it just makes everything simpler. So that's why we're bringing it to you in this format. But this will be a future project. We just want to go ahead and get that chart updated.
Could you take a moment and just go back the history most recently because at one time the life-saving station was a Red Cross structure, right? Or did the city still own it at that point in time and they just leased it to
the city has always, I believe, owned it, at least in recent history. It's been a city building that the Red Cross was a partner with.
I'm sorry, say that
the
again.
Red Cross was a partner of the city.
And so when we recently went through a number of iterations and changes, it basically all reverted to the city as ownership of the life-saving station. And we're taking over that responsibility at this point to maintain it and...
No, the CRA we won't own it at all.
Not the CRA,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I meant the city when I said...
So the city owns it, but I will be very, very honest. That whole process, I was not involved in all of that. There was a lot of litigation involved. There were a lot of attorneys involved. And so forgive me, I'm a little uncomfortable speaking too much to the process just because I don't want to accidentally misspeak on that.
And I appreciate that because that's where I'm at too. Because
So
I'm not.
it is it is city owned. I can assure you of that. So we are not doing anything outside of the realm of what we are allowed to do. And it's always been assumed and hoped for that we would eventually get to a place where, with the branding and what council just spoke about at their briefing, and the rebranding and the new logo and the new color scheme and all of that, we knew we had to get through a bunch of steps before we could get to a place where we could say, yes, we can repair the historic stucco. Yes, we can replace historic windows. So this is really and truly just the CRA taking on, because it's in the district and we want to preserve the historic integrity, just taking on the responsibility of the preservation side.
Do we have any sense as to, will there be participation from the city on this also?
Yeah.
So as we move forward and really determine what the efforts are going to be in the way of renovations and.
So I know for this, what we're looking at is windows, stucco repair, paint. Those are the big things right now that is being planned for. I do know that.
Mm-hmm.
There won't, at least to my knowledge at this stage, be any massive substantial changes because there's no need or desire. We want to preserve the integrity of the structure as it is as best as we can.
Yeah.
So it will be right now doing just a lot of repairs that are necessary.
Okay.
But because it is a historic building, those repairs have to be done very carefully.
Very carefully. I've been there, done that, so I know exactly what you mean. Just the stucco work in itself, would need to meet certain criteria and things, and maintain the existing architectural character and so forth. I guess we'll learn a little bit more as we move further down the road. I was just trying to get a sense as, I would think this needs to be a partnership between the city and the CRA in moving this project forward. But any other comments from the board?
Not on this, just one on this.
Only one of 2 historic structures in our whole downtown. The other one's privately owned. So,
What?
we only have 2 historic structures.
What's the other one?
Casa Hotel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We have 2 Art Deco buildings. That's very interesting.
So
one of my favorite styles of architecture, but
I completely agree.
Yeah, it's a. But
I think it's great. We're going to identify.
No other comments on this item? Thad, I understand you have one other item you'd like to bring up.
Yeah, just one thing, a question for Jim, which he probably won't want to answer, but I can't help but ask. Have you been in touch with Corner Lot regarding P3?
Yes.
Good. Oh, damn.
Oh.
They've done some
I didn't
really,
know where this was going. I was like holding my breath.
That's sad, because you're familiar with a lot of the things they've done. It's been one hell of a track record for the last 20, 25 years.
I do have a great reputation.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
In full transparency, I have to say that also are a client of our firm, although we have
Sure.
iron curtains between.
No problem there. But I was just curious because this sort of concept is hard to squeeze into 35 feet. But it sure would be pretty to see something like that facing on the seawalk.
And their firm, are we still on the record?
Let's adjourn.
Before we adjourn, do we have any update on if we're going to be surviving as an entity? Because I've made a lot of phone calls.
So,
And they ignored me.
Mr. Chair, if I could.
Hold it. One conversation at a time, please.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, if it's all right, I want to talk a little bit about the upcoming schedule, and I wanted to actually brief you guys on that.
Thank you.
It's not perfect. Let me start with that, but nothing ever is. But it is much better than it was. They have made some substantial changes, and so right now, these microphones. Right now, they made an amendment, and on the House side, the amendment would read, or it does read, a community redevelopment agency may not initiate any new projects or issue new debt on or after October 1 of this year, For purposes of the subsection, new project means any project for which there is no appropriation. This is the big one where they added. Or for which the CRA has not retained appropriate funds. And then they state, hold on, I read the wrong line, that, God, where did it go? You know what, I'm trying to scroll this tiny text. Regardless, it says that you can initiate a new project and it would be considered a new project if the lifespan of the project went beyond the lifespan of your district. So it doesn't really read a whole lot different than the way we operate now. You know, we're not trying to plan for a project in 2060 right now. So we'll see. It still has, a long way to go. There's a lot of chatter. There's a lot going on with this. I do think there's been a huge outcry from CRAs all over the state. I'm sure a lot of lobbyists have gotten beat up by their CRAs also and, been hounding folks. So we're very cautiously optimistic that we will survive.
There's also a chance, and this is a reasonably good chance that nothing will happen.
They'll talk and nothing will happen.
That's from some words from our past office today.
Okay, well, thank you for that update.
It could literally,
Time to go off
I could get an email right now that it's completely different. So who knows? Just before we get adjourn, I handed out everybody an upcoming meeting schedule. Again, it just touches on the 26th regular meeting. You'll have your resolutions. We'll have some staff updates on some other stuff at that meeting as well. May, right now, we have a workshop scheduled for the 14th. That's kind of our normal Wednesday workshop. This is my fault. I did not realize back last year when we were planning out the schedule that the 26th, which is our meeting, is Memorial Day. I won't be here. The building will be closed. So, so we talked about, right now, we don't have any voting items for May. What I was just talking about with Heather is if Corner Lot reaches out to us and they're ready, I could see us shifting and instead of having a workshop, that just becomes a regular meeting. That's a very, very easy change to make. It's just a matter of how we notice it. So we will likely just do one meeting in May on the 14th. TBD if it's workshop or a voting meeting, but we will give you guys ample notice. In June, we will be workshopping the budget with our finance department. This will be, I think, the first year we've done that. We didn't do that last year. It just came actually workshopping the budget. Maybe we did. Did we? God, I'm sorry. It's all running together. So we'll workshop the budget in June. And then we will plan to formally adopt the budget at the July meeting, and that is in advance of the council budget workshops, which start in August, and the whole budget showcase. Council's got some briefings coming up May 12th. They'll be talking about budget assumptions, purchasing manual, the upcoming surfing camps, and then levels of service. That I put that on there because it's a very interesting one because it's going to talk about walkovers, restrooms, and just general maintenance. We'll see what comes out of that one. June 9th, there will be a Penman Road update on that project at the briefing. July, there'll be a briefing on stormwater updates. If you're interested in that, that'll be in July. And then in August, they'll start all the budget workshops. And then council, the April 21st meeting, the first reading of the ordinance that is going to restrict parking on A1A South, and the second reading scheduled for the subsequent meeting. That is to target some issues we ran into really and truly a lot in the South End district where we were having days at a time, massive semi trucks parking all along the sides of A1A. That is not our road. So there's only so much that can be done. So we had to work with our FDOT folks. So that ordinance will be read in April and then again in May. And we'll also be reading an ordinance for the first time on prohibiting smoking on the beach. So that ordinance will be read also at the April meeting.
Who's going to enforce it? I'm just trying to be honest.
Yeah, as far as I know. Yeah, so they talked about it at the safety briefing, which was
and dogs.
a week or two ago.
Yeah.
And ultimately have decided. Now, again, this is just on the agenda, and when you do an ordinance reading, it could very easily get deferred, voted down, no. So, but as of today, it is on the agenda, yes. So I can at least speak to that. It's on the agenda for consideration, I'll say that.
So we can show up and oppose it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Not as a CRA member.
I know.
Okay.
General, trust me, I will.
Unless the whole board tells you to do it. If the whole board tells you, it's a whole different ballgame. But yes, just as a general rule, CRA board members, if you want to show up and speak at a meeting, you're there speaking as the individual. At May, they'll do the second reading if ordinances are passed. And then at the May 19th, that was the earliest I could get the tentative chart update for our downtown plan. So if we approve that, adding the life-saving station to our downtown chart, I would then take that to council. They would approve it also via resolution. So we would be good to go there. And then in June, they're doing a resolution to update purchasing manual. Some folks might be interested, so I just kind of threw that one on there. And then I gave you guys all a calendar, and it just has everything in green is upcoming events this month. Everything in red are our meetings, and blue is council. So we've got Beaches Green Market at Penman Park. Sandcastle contest is next weekend. That's always fun. That's just north of the pier on the beach. And then opening of the Peaches Parade is on the 27th. And we will at least have hardscaping completion of the pier parking lot in time for opening of the beaches.
Chain link down?
Yes, chain link will be down.
That was my last question.
Well, unless we get crazy weather tomorrow, we can't work. As long as they can work, they are on target to have it cleaned up and open. The landscaping won't be done, but we should have substantial completion. My last thing, and then I'll get off my soapbox. If you have not seen the mural or met the artist, please do. She's incredible. If I've said it once, I've said it every time we've had an artist. I truly don't know how we continue to be so fortunate that the art committee, you guys and council keep finding these amazing artists for us to work with, but it's been another just flawless process.
Are we getting something that says Jack's Beach?
Yes. Yep. They're going to do a big hashtag Jack's Beach on the mural. So.
On the mural, okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Just a couple of quick comments, if I may. Getting ready for the beaches opening parade, that was something that was important to really get focused on. I think you've answered the question about the pier parking lot, but one thing I would encourage staff to do is to really, I went by there this morning at the where the mural is being done on the enclosure for the trash. The inside of that looks horrendous already. There's trash all over, not inside the bins, but outside the bins, and it's starting to flow outside the gates already. And somebody needs to go and get that stuff in the right location. I don't know why it's looking the way it is, but we need to have a focus on that a little bit.
The city manager directed us I should have said this and I didn't, at the executive leadership meeting yesterday. He directed Parks, excuse me, Public Works, Beaches Energy, anybody that has stake in the downtown district to take this weekend next and get out in the district and for us to go find issues and report those and to make sure that we get things in tip-top shape. So everybody is actively out and about.
Yeah. I kind of have the same comment or a similar comment along Beach Boulevard between 1st and 2nd Street. There's been for several weeks, there's been just dump piles of crushed material sitting there in large mounds. They're about 3 feet high, and then some stone, and then there's signage that's laying on top of the grass and stuff has been there for 3 weeks. It's probably killing the grass at this. Between 1st and 2nd Street on Beach Boulevard, on the island, on the north side of the island is where it is. And it's been sitting there for some time. There's a little area in there that they haven't finished yet. There's still the gravel that needs to be spread properly, and this crushed stuff needs to be removed and taken elsewhere or used somewhere. Sure. But it's just been sitting there as a 3-foot high mound that's probably about 10 to 15 feet in length, something like that, along again the northern edge of the median between 1st and 2nd Street.
Okay.
And
Work us, interrupt us.
And then Taylor, I'd like to get an update on where we stand with the park, the passive park in the south end district.
Yep. So we got our determination letter from the St. John's Stormwater Management District that we're not a wetland, so we had to wait to get that before anybody else could touch it. They kind of said, don't do anything until we can certify this isn't a wetland, so we went through that process. We're having to do a little more work and get Beaches Energy is requiring a different type of plan than we thought for the electrical component. We thought it was going to be something pretty straightforward, but Beaches Energy has requested a full electrical workup, so our consultants are working on that. Outside of waiting on the electrical engineering, everything else is ready.
So we can't get started with anything until we get the electrical engineering done?
No, because we can't issue a bid without all the engineering documents.
We need to find a way, because we told those folks down there more than a year ago that we'd be getting started on that project, and we're still haven't
Yeah.
done anything down there. I'm sorry, Jim.
Close the meeting.
Okay. Any other comments from the leaders? Okay. If there are no further comments, I'll adjourn this workshop session. Thank you.